While Easter is a Christian holiday, the Easter Bunny is a charismatic character that allures everyone, especially children of all ages, to hunt for hidden colorful eggs filled with sweet surprises. But rabbits don't lay eggs. Where does the Easter Bunny get the eggs? Why does he hide them, and why are they colorful and not even real eggs? Where does the Easter Bunny come from, and what does he have to do with Easter? What is Easter, and what does that word mean? This is definitely one of those topics that is familiar to many, but that very few can really explain. This video is part of the Addendum series, where we explore and expand concepts, ideas, and practically any topic that might be somewhat familiar to us by adding information to our knowledge. This time, we are exploring the origins, evolution, and meaning of the Easter Bunny. For the Christians, Easter is a religious holiday commemorating the resurrection of Jesus the Christ 3 days after being crucified by the Romans, as described in the New Testament, which is the second division of the Christian Bible. So, it's a celebration of life, renewal, and hope. The festivities vary across the Christian world according to the influence of the original cultures of each place before being converted to Christianity. The holiday is movable, so it doesn't necessarily happen on the same date each year. Aside from many controversies within the historically and culturally diverse Christian communities around the world, the date is determined by two main astronomical events. The first one is the vernal equinox or spring equinox in the northern hemispheres, which refers to the moment during the year when daytime and nighttime are approximately of equal duration. Vernal comes from the Latin word ver, which means spring, and equinox comes from equinoctium, which is a compound word formed by equus, equal, plus nox, night, that is, equal night. The second astronomical event is the first full moon on or after this equinox. After the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, convened by the Roman Emperor Constantine I as the first attempt to unify the entire Christendom and all its practices, it was decided that Easter should happen each year following these two astronomical events. The council did not specifically decree that Easter must fall on a Sunday, but since it was a common practice in many places already, it made sense to keep it that way. Many ancient cultures based the celebrations of rituals and important events on astronomical observations of the Earth's sky, specifically the movements and appearance of constellations, the moon, and the sun. They documented their observations and calculations to create what is called lunisolar calendars, where luna is Latin for moon and sol means sun. Easter is scheduled according to a lunisolar calendar. While German and English languages use the word Easter, most European languages refer to this Christian holiday with names that derive from Greek and Latin, such as Pascha, Pâques, Pascua, or Pesach, all referring to Resurrection Sunday. Not to confuse it with Pesach, which is Hebrew for Passover, a much older and very different holiday celebrated by the Jews, which happens to be scheduled also using a lunisolar calendar and landing pretty much on the same dates as Easter. Pesach commemorates the emancipation of the Israelites from slavery in ancient Egypt and their exodus through the Red Sea in the 13th century BC during the reign of Ramses III, way earlier than the resurrection of Jesus. The convergence of both holidays happens because, according to the Synoptic Gospels in the New Testament of the Christian Bible, both the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus took place during the week of the Jewish Passover. But what about the word Easter? Tracing back the etymology, that is the study of the origin and meaning of words, Easter derives from the Old English word Eostra, which refers to the West Germanic goddess of spring, rebirth, and fertility according to the Venerable Bede, an English monk and scholar in the 8th century who is considered the father of English history. Bede wrote the only documentary source about this word in his work The Reckoning of Time in 725 AD. Originally, the term Eostra was used to refer to the month of spring, which corresponds to April on our modern calendar in the northern hemispheres. April comes from the Latin name Aprilis, which means opening, also making reference to the season when flowers and trees begin to open or bloom. Pagan Germanic and Anglo-Saxon peoples held celebrations with feasts and rituals to honor the goddess Eostra. Some scholars question the existence of the goddess Eostra and suspect Bede invented the whole story. In 1835, Jacob Grimm, a German mythologist and folklorist, yes, one of the famous Grimm brothers who wrote the numerous fairy tales we all know, reinforced the connection between Easter and the goddess Eostra that Bede had introduced in his works. As archaeological research continues, it seems that evidence in England and Germany confirmed the worship of Eostra amongst ancient pagan cultures in those lands. In any case, the arrival of the springtime has inspired many peoples, particularly in the northern hemispheres, to celebrate the rebirth of nature all over and the access to food after a long cold winter. As it is evident with many other Christian traditions, older pagan religions were absorbed and adapted to facilitate the conversion of different peoples to Christianity. Some scholars explain the use of the word Easter as a strategy to deviate from Eostra and appropriate the celebrations about rebirth related to springtime with the resurrection of Jesus and convey the promise of renewal and hope. But this pertains particularly to the Anglo-Saxon and Germanic cultures. That explains why the rest of the Christian world, especially in the Greco-Roman cultures, people do not use the word Easter, nor do they associate it with the Easter bunny and its colorful eggs. Okay, so where does the Easter bunny come from? Well, to begin with, originally it was not a rabbit, but a hare. In the Germanic myth of Eostra, one year this goddess arrived late, prolonging a brutally cold winter. Eostra saw a bird with frozen wings, and she lamented the consequences of her delay and felt sorry for the bird. Eostra then transformed the bird into a snow hare and gave him the ability to lay colorful eggs once a year during the spring equinox celebrations so that everyone will like him. Several cultures around the world have perceived rabbits and hares as being sacred animals, particularly for their ability to procreate quickly and proliferate. The Celts venerated hares in their mythology, considering them as astute tricksters, the same as some Native American tribes like the Algonquian and the Anishinaabe peoples. This might have been what influenced the creation of popular fictional anthropomorphic cartoon characters, that is, human-like animals, like our well-liked Bugs Bunny in the late 1930s by Warner Brothers Cartoons. Some folk stories in the United Kingdom tell of witches having the ability to transform into rabbits or hares. Many cultures see these animals as harbingers of both bad or good luck, and at least see them as mysterious beings. Perhaps you have heard of some people carrying a rabbit's foot as an amulet for good luck, but that is a topic for another video. By the way, if you have not subscribed to Oskivision yet, this is a good moment to do it. It's free. And click on the bell so you get a notification when a new documentary has been posted. The three hares is a very old symbol that has been found in many places around the world. The earliest example dates back to the 6th century AD in a Buddhist holy site in China. The same symbol can be seen on artifacts from ancient Syria, Egypt, and Pakistan from the 9th century AD. Even medieval churches in the United Kingdom, France, and Germany use this enigmatic symbol that is likely to have been dispersed due to the multiple trades along the Silk Roads that linked Europe with Asia. If you look carefully, there is an optical illusion created by the ears of the hares. Apparently, each hare has 2 ears, but in the reality there are only 3 ears depicted, forming a triangle in the center of the circle. Some interpretations recall the themes of prosperity, regeneration, and even Trinity, renewal, and rebirth that could relate to the Easter message. Trying to decipher obscure meanings of this symbol will take us down into a rabbit hole. Okay, I was waiting for the opportunity to use that cliché that means dealing with something difficult, troubling, or even surreal. While the earliest documented use of this phrase dates back to the 7th century, its popularity started after Lewis Carroll wrote his classic Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in 1865, where the main character literally falls down into a rabbit hole to encounter a bizarre and nonsensical world. Several cultures link rabbits or hares with the moon. In an old Buddhist story, a hare encountered a starving priest in a forest and decided to sacrifice himself, jumping into a fire to provide the priest with a meal. As a reward for his virtue, the hare's image was cast on the moon for all to be reminded of self-sacrifice to serve the needy. An Aztec legend tells the story of the creation of the 5th sun. The Aztecs believed that there had been 4 other suns that had perished, so there was the need for a new one. In a council of gods, 2 of them, Nanahuatzin and Texistecatl were to decide who would jump into a fire to become the fifth son. Texistecatl insisted to be the one with the honor, but hesitated at the last moment. So Nanahuatzin was more courageous and jumped into the fire. Right after seeing this, Texistecatl also jumped into the fire. This created two sons, but the other gods feared that two luminaries in the sky would burn the earth. So one of the council gods threw a rabbit at Texistecatl, darkening its face to become today's moon. There are many more legends about a rabbit on the moon. If you squint a little, you might be able to see it, especially when it's full. The connection between hares or rabbits with the resurrection of Jesus is not clear at all. The Old Testament in the Christian Bible, which is the Torah or the Hebrew Bible, provides very little reference to these animals and a bit polarizing as well, like in the books of Deuteronomy and Leviticus, where they are described as impure animals, while in the Psalms and Proverbs they are described as possessing intelligence but weak. Aristotle was impressed by the speed at which rabbits could reproduce, which is perhaps what has fascinated humanity the most, to the point of misconception and exaggeration. Like Pliny the Elder, a Roman philosopher who mistakenly believed that hares were hermaphrodites, so that both males and females were able to have babies. In the medieval Europe and in the Renaissance period, rabbits and hares were depicted as symbols of both chastity or sexuality. There are several representations of Venus, the ancient Roman goddess of love and sexuality, with a rabbit next to her. The Dutch painter Hieronymus Bosch depicted lust, one of the 7 deadly sins in Christian theology, as a rabbit called luxuria, which is where the word luxury comes from. While nowadays we associate this word with wealth, opulence, and fine taste, this word originally meant excess, lechery, and lust. On the other hand, Titian, the Italian painter, depicted Mary with baby Jesus while holding a white rabbit with her left hand, representing her purity and continence. In the 17th century, Protestants in Europe began relating hares and rabbits with the concepts of resurrection and multiplication or abundance. So, the myth of Eostra, the snow hare, and his colorful eggs was adapted to the Christian message of resurrection, hope, and blessings, since it's more effective to instill people to adapt their traditions and beliefs rather than to force them to abandon them. The spring celebrations continued, now called Easter, an easy transition to forget about Eostra. Children in Germany made nests with baskets the day before Easter and would leave carrots for the Easter hare. They would wake up the next day excited, looking for the baskets to collect the colorful eggs that the trickster Easter hare had hidden. Does this remind you of a similar tradition involving milk and cookies? Since ancient times, eggs have had mystical significance. Several very old cultures and civilizations make reference to a cosmic egg or the world egg to explain the origin of the universe. In certain cosmogonies, eggs signify birth and origin of life. Ancient Egyptians and Greeks used them in burial practices referring to the afterlife, and the Romans coined the phrase omne vivum ex ovo, which means every living thing comes from an egg. In the Christian context, some relate the Easter eggs to resurrection, as in Jesus' emergence from the tomb. In some Christian traditions, eggs are forbidden during Lent, which is a period of 40 days before Easter, commemorating the 40 days that Jesus spent fasting and meditating in the desert and enduring temptations by Satan, according to 3 Gospels in the Christian Bible. Several Christian traditions observe Lent by fasting and abstaining from enjoying different things. In the Slavic cultures, different pagan legends relate the use of decorated eggshells with intricate colorful symbols emulating plants and flowers, stars, and the sun, to protect people from evil and to wish good health and happiness. Croatia, Poland, and Ukraine still preserve eggshell decoration as a fine folk art. There are different types, and the purposes also vary. After the conversion to Christianity, these traditions incorporated Christian symbology, like crosses, churches, white doves representing the Holy Spirit, and triangles with a circle inside to represent the Holy Trinity and the Eye of God. In some of these traditions, the eggs are hard-boiled and then decorated, so that people can eat them after Easter. Perhaps the most extravagant of all the versions of Easter eggs in the world are the ones designed by the famous Russian jeweler Peter Karl Gustavovich Fabergé using precious materials and gemstones instead of real eggs and mundane materials. See, his family designed jewels for the Russian royalty since the Tsar Alexander III expressed his admiration for their work in an exhibition in Moscow in 1882. For the Orthodox Easter in 1885, Fabergé was commissioned to design an Easter egg to be given as a gift from the Tsar to his wife, the Empress Maria Fyodorovna. They both were so delighted with the quality and beauty of Fabergé's egg that the Tsar commissioned an Easter egg every year thereafter. After the Russian Revolution in 1917, the royal family fled St. Petersburg, leaving behind all the royal treasures. Out of the 50 imperial Easter eggs made by Fabergé, only 43 are accounted for. So, with a lot of luck, you might be able to find one of the missing 7. Early German immigrants in Pennsylvania in the United States brought along the story of the Easter hare in the early 1700s. There, this character began being known as the Easter Bunny, which started the confusion between a hare and a rabbit. On April 5, 1722, the Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen encountered an island in the southeastern Pacific Ocean located 2,182 miles or 3,512 kilometers west of central Chile. Since this event happened on Easter Sunday, he called it Easter Island. The news of this discovery, with such an interesting name for the island, traveled around the world, and it was easy to make a connection with the Easter Bunny. So, from the West Germanic lands, this enigmatic character found a new home on the opposite side of the planet. In 1890, a shop owner in Reading, Pennsylvania named Robert L. Strohecker ordered the construction of a giant Easter bunny to decorate the front of his shop, making him the father of Easter bunny merchandising. Robert's grandson, Ben, founded Harbor Sweets Chocolates in Massachusetts, making the first chocolates in the shape of a bunny in the United States. Back in Germany, chocolatiers had already designed bunny-shaped chocolate molds in Munich to be sold on Easter each year since the early 1800s. In 1865, the English chocolate company Cadbury created the first hollow chocolate egg made with dark chocolate and filled with sugar-coated milk chocolate drops. In 1923, Cadbury created cream-filled chocolate eggs. By Easter in 1934, the Boards Chocolate Company, also from Reading, Pennsylvania, was one of the major chocolate bunny producers in the United States. Gradually, the sugar and candy industry marketed Easter to join Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, and St. Valentine's Day in the capitalization of the most commercialized themed products each year. In 1988, the Hershey Company acquired the U.S. Cadbury egg license, and by Easter 2023, according to Candy USA, the total confectionery sales in the United States reached $5.2 billion. The statistics according to Nielsen IQ show that people buy more chocolate candy for Easter than Valentine's Day and Halloween. While all these versions of beautiful, colorful decorated eggs remain a traditional element in the celebrations of Easter in many countries, particularly those who have been exposed to German culture, most Latin American countries do not relate to these traditions, but they do use decorated eggshells called cascarones, filled with confetti, flour, and even glitter for the celebration of Carnaval, the equivalent of Mardi Gras, which is right before Lent. Stay tuned for a documentary about this fascinating topic. There, we have added lots of interesting information to our understanding of the origins, evolution, and meaning of the Easter Bunny. If you think this has been a good addendum to your knowledge, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, it's free, and share this video in your social networks. Check our other playlists and let us know in the comments what else you would like to see in OSCE Vision. Thank you for watching.